Hello viewers, me and team here. Welcome back to Let's Play Dark Souls. In the last part we took on the 4 kings and had a pretty good run with that. So now we're going to continue on into yet another area that many people enjoy very much. Yes, the Demon Ruins path. And so this is going to be a bit of a long video as it is, what, almost 43 minutes? But in return, I present to you guys an entire run through the Demon Ruins. Lovely. One of the more misunderstood areas in the game, and still containing one of the more hated boss fights in all the Soul series. If not the most hated boss fight in all the Soul series, depending on your reason for disliking a fight. In terms of ultimate difficulty, the Beta Chaos is not really up there in terms of Souls bosses. Once you know what to do, it actually takes relatively little skill to defeat that boss. But it is nevertheless the bane of many people's first playthroughs for obvious reasons that I touched on in an earlier video and we'll get to. But before we do that, I'm going to head back into Blighttown. And my reasoning for this, I think, is to pick up Power Within and maybe upgrade the Pyromancy Flame a little bit. I don't remember. I think it's just to get Power Within, though. And yeah, that two-handed R2 is just amazing. I'm not sure why I didn't just run by these guys, though. And yeah, that's what happens if you don't have a lot of poise. You get wrecked. Get wrecked when you take a hit like that. They stagger you. But one guy down. Go ahead and run around to backstab on the other. Man. I know that's my PvP videos are not going to be popular. My first one didn't have a lot of me backstabbing my opponents, but there will be more of that in the future. Oh yes, this is also the video where I get the Firekeeper soul, so I'll give a little bit of a demonstration on how to deal with that as well. So a lot of loose ends to clean up on. But the main reason I'm taking this path right now is that I did not rest at the Daughters of Chaos bonfire back in part 2. So I really don't have any method of warping down there using the Lord Vessel. So that's why I had to run through the shortcut through Anor Londo ruins to get back here. Only thing being that going down is probably easier than up. So yeah, it's a little bit preferable from that standpoint. But these guys can be a real pain. These toxic blow dart guys I'm about to encounter. They they end a number of people's runs through Blighttown. And their attack speed is very fast. So they'll just spam ranged attacks at you, actually very high range on them. And they'll inflict toxic that does a lot of damage. You saw that in part 2 as well. I really didn't have enough Estus flasks at +0 to survive being toxic just once from them. Whereas like a dung pie toxic is only a couple hundred damage. You can easily survive one of those. But these guys throwing toxic darts are just killer, man. But now that I'm here, I'm going to show one of the easier ways to handle them. And that's the Spider Shield. The Great Shield of Artorias also works. One thing to note about both the Spider Shield and the Great Shield of Artorias, as well as probably the Blood Shield, though I haven't tested that, is that these shields don't work in multiplayer, which is stupid as heck, but it's true. If you try to block poison effect, and yeah, I got myself toxic like an idiot because I turned around. More like I was dealing with the hit A to hit OK, and it messed me up. But I'll just use my one moss here. But yeah, these shields don't work in player versus player, so don't try to block people throwing poison arrows at you, or poison knives, or dung pies with a Spider Shield or Great Shield of Artorias. It doesn't work. And you also can't block, I don't think, bleed buildup with Artorias or the Blood Shield. Really annoying, actually. Those things should probably work, but they don't. Anyway, I'm getting hammered here. That's an interesting block angle. So I decided to just quickly run away and avoid the number of enemies throwing toxic blow darts at me. Because I didn't really see a good way to approach that and not get toxic, and I don't have a way to get rid of toxic. So if I get toxic now, I am either going to have to quickly run through this area and then warp home or die, or yeah, not ideal. So can avoid that. And then these guys are all over the place. These fire dogs are pretty much like the dogs earlier, except for, well, they have the ability to spit fire at you, but they have a very long tail at that. They only do it at a certain range, and they stop before they do it. So really you can just back away from that. And then if they attack you while you're blocking, yeah, obviously they're not going to do anything unless they're hitting you with fire, no chip damage. So that's pretty simple. And then you can otherwise deal with them like normal dogs, just kick them. Not sure what I was going for here. I think I didn't realize that this is a different part of the elevator mechanism, because I'm looking for something I can jump onto, and I'm not seeing it. And although I have never tried it, I'm pretty sure even if you do a running jump onto the spinning wheel there, you can't like stand on top of it and run across the spinning wheel. The game will probably just make you fall to your death. So I would recommend that against that, unless you know or someone has shown that it will work. I don't know how I didn't get poisoned there. I'm a fortunate individual, I guess. At least in this particular part of the run. Seriously, I very easily could have been toxic to there. But fortunately I was not. Yeah, now that guy's shooting the floor, much like happens to us when we try to aim down. And for some reason he doesn't take a pot shot at me as I climb up the ladder, so he's relatively easy to deal with, and I get another blooming clump, which may come in handy later if I get toxicked by somebody else, but hopefully I won't need that. So that's the more easy way to deal with that area, and any spear will work, although if you're using an unupgraded one or like a +5 or something, it'll take a little longer. Piercing swords, also fine. Any fast attacking weapon, you can probably swat them in between toxic blow darts. And especially if you have more poison resistant gear, an alternative you can do that's plenty effective is to just take one toxic blow dart but then stun lock and kill them, and then let your poison build up, cool down again while blocking with the spider shield and backing off. And you can just do that over and over too. So there's a lot of ways to deal with them, assuming you have a shield that can block their poison darts. Yeah, now I can run through the poison marsh a little bit more easily. Although I don't think I have any souls worth giving the Quelaag to upgrade the Pyromancy Flame. I'm forgetting whether I do that off screen or not. And unfortunately, the heavier armors in this game really don't resist poison very well. Full Havel's is particularly terrible. Its poison resist is just awful. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're a fan of heavier armor, is that you will want to have something to deal with poison.
Yet you can see me.
And yes, this is considered a quote-unquote safe area, although it's not 100% safe. Enemies can still attack you if they are aggroed on you, but they do tend to drop aggro while you're here.
Yes, of course. It should be expected.
I mean, who doesn't want pyromancy?
You shall be my... But to pursue my pirate, are you prepared?
Yes, I'm prepared to give something up, specifically souls. So there's only a few spells that she actually sells you that are really worth your time in particular. Possibly Fire Whip, although I don't know. I probably won't use it. The only way you really want to use Fire Whip on a typical basis, because it roots you in place, is as part of a combo. So say you hit somebody with a great fireball and you have 45 dexterity.
Almost as bungling as you in your world, the little rascal.
Yeah, she's Solomon's master too. Anyway, if you have 45 dexterity, you can hit somebody with a fireball or great chaos fireball, and then chain that into a fire whip and then a combustion, and that will kill most people. But if you don't have the dexterity, they will be able to get out of the stagger before you can follow up. And of course there's toggle escaping too, although toggling out of pyromancy, which most people don't get hit by intentionally, is rather rare. You're not going to see even very good players toggle out of that very often. Okay, since we're running here, and you saw me hit the center button there briefly, you'll notice that my avatar is a bear in a tutu. And there's a good story behind that. Originally, I picked Genghis Khan for my avatar, The Civ Rev version, even though I've never actually played Civ Revolution, it was something that I could get readily on Xbox Live, so I put Genghis Khan on. But what other people were seeing was that bear in a tutu that you saw very briefly when I hit the center button there. And so, not only with Lance, but a couple other people are like, why do you have a bear in a tutu as your avatar? And I'm like, I have Genghis Khan. But they just kept insisting it was a bear in a tutu, and no matter how I looked at it on my side of things, the Civ Rev picture of Genghis Khan just doesn't look like a bear in a tutu, so I didn't understand it. But then I signed in through like Windows Live on my computer, and I saw the bear in a tutu, and it was just too hilarious. I couldn't believe. I'm like, yeah, that's actually a bear in a tutu then. Okay. So they weren't crazy or messing with me. I actually did have a bear in a tutu as my avatar for other people. And then at some point, I did something with my account, and it stopped showing Genghis Khan for me, but actually showed the bear in a tutu for me as well. And try as I couldn't actually find this on Xbox Live. So I don't know how that got there, but it's sufficiently awesome that I'm going to leave it there. So my avatar is therefore a bear in a tutu. I'm not changing it. What did I forget here? Oh, reinforce the Estus Flask. Congratulations on remembering that, me. Good job, past me. Future me congratulates you. Oy. So in an earlier part I cheesed Ceaseless Discharge, so in this one I can just run down. I don't have to worry about taking him out. If you want, you can wait until now to take him out as well, but he's so easy to consistently kill with the quote-unquote fast way or easy way that you really need the souls earlier in the game more than you needed them later in the game. Might as well get them while you can. And so down I go. The other reason I wanted to talk to Quelaag is I wanted to essentially open up her quest, since I intend to run the entire Demon Ruins to Lost Izalith path in one go. If you kill the Bed of Chaos before talking to her or before finding her, she'll disappear. You won't be able to use her as a trainer in that playthrough. And that kind of sucks. So there's no reason to bypass that unless you just absolutely don't care about pyromancy. And look at that pro skill lava. Stomp on that lava. That's amazing. I'm so good at this game. And so I'm running Great Combustion for now. I still haven't bothered with Power Within. I forget whether I get that off screen or not. I probably should have gotten it on screen if I didn't, though. If I didn't, I apologize. I don't remember if I got it already or what's going on with that. But it's pretty close to Lower Blighttown on the path. So if you just climb up back towards Upper Blighttown, you'll come across Power Within guarded by this bug-like creature. Giant bug-like creature that's sticking out of a wall. And if you kill that thing, which is easy with ranged attacks, or if you just want a suicide run, that's fine too. You can grab that pyromancy. Alright. So running down to Demon Ruins. Demon Ruins, one of the easier places to just run through in the entire game. You can fight all those Capper Demon clones, or you can just drop down here and bypass pretty much any challenge the Demon Ruins itself has, which is what I chose to do. I guess if you want to get the flame embers, either chaos or large flame embers, then you have to run through some more stuff, but even there you can run past everything and get what you're looking for. So that's one way to take that guy out. Ranged attacks also work very well. They seem to be a bit more resistant to pyromancies than, say, magic attacks. Big surprise there. But they're not that difficult to deal with. Just try not to get grabbed by the rock worms from the front, because unless your vitality is very high and you're not in New Game Plus, that will get you killed. Kind of like getting eaten by a mimic. It's just not good. Alright, so you can one-shot these guys with a chaos, with either a chaos or a lightning, I think, +5's way, with the two-handed R2. But easier is to just run past them. Now coming up here on the right is a shortcut straight to the Bed of Chaos through Lost Izalith. But you need to be in the Chaos Servants Covenant, which you get by talking to the fair lady there, the spider creature near the bonfire. And you need to have given her 30 humanity, which is a pain in the butt, so I'm not doing it. And then, yeah, we're in a boss fight, so I should probably talk about the boss fight. Not a very good start to that fight. You want to roll through that jumping attack, and if you do so successfully, you probably won't get caught by his magic attack that he fires after that. And yes, despite his name, the Demon Firesage does magic damage with his attacks. What I just got hit by is a magic attack. So either he hits you with physical, as in clubbing you with his gigantic axe, or he's using magic on you. Keep that in mind. Fire-resistant gear, no use here. Magic-resistant gear, very useful here. It's stupid, but that's how it goes. Same thing with the snakes in Sen's Fortress, which I think I mentioned when they're shooting lightning at you. That's not lightning, that's magic. Oy, I wish the elementals were a bit more relevant. Anyway, he fights very similarly to the Stray Demon. The only difference being he has more of a tendency to jump backwards and spam ranged attacks than the Stray Demon. His AI fights a little bit differently, but he has pretty much the same moveset. I could have done without 3 versions of these giant demon things, because they're really not that interesting as bosses, and they're kind of generic. Even their backstory is lacking as far as I'm aware. So they're more roadblocks than legitimate plot points of interest. But that's the Demon Firesage. Try not to screw up early like I did, but if you're on regular New Game, you can probably get away with it. I'm not even going to bother to pick up his item. That's the... I forget whether there's a Demon Catalyst. Yeah, I think it's the Demon's Catalyst. It has no real benefit to using it compared to other catalysts. You just use it to cast magic. But if you're below a certain amount of intelligence, you always want to use the Ulysseal Ivory Catalyst. And once you're above that, things like the Sorcerer's Catalyst are just as good. Or then you start getting into Tin Crystallization or Logan's Catalyst territory. So there's really not a good spot to use the Izalith or Demon Catalysts unless you just want to use them as a replacement for a Sorcerer's Catalyst. But I don't care about that, so I don't need it. I've probably picked up more than I need in this anyway. Surprisingly, I didn't aggro that guy. Probably not the most important thing to pick up, but might as well. The reason I'm coming up here is to open a shortcut back to the Daughters of Chaos bonfire. It'll also let me restore Estus to +10, so I don't have to worry about doing that in these upcoming bonfires. But mostly it's just to open this shortcut. And I'm pretty sure, based on a few test runs, that if you do open up the Chaos Servant shortcut into Lost Izalith directly from the Demon Ruins, that this is actually a faster path than using the bonfire that I rested at just before fighting the Firesage. Is once you ride this down, you can drop down, and yeah, you take some damage, but it's not that big of a deal, especially considering what you're about to fight. And you're right there at the shortcut, pretty much. I think it's technically a little bit faster. I might be wrong, but if not, it's comparable, and it carries the benefit of being able to warp there, which pretty well outdoes the other bonfire, strictly because of that. And yeah, the path is just behind me. If I dropped down there, I'd be facing the Demon Ruins and able to take the shortcut if I'd opened it. But I'm not giving her humanity. And I'm not joining that covenant. I'm a Dark Wraith. So we're going to do this the quote-unquote proper way. And interestingly enough, the speedrunners at first took the shortcut to get through straight to the Bed of Chaos. But in the future found out that they can actually beat the Demon Firesage and the upcoming boss, the Centipede Demon, faster than they could donate the amount of humanity it takes to open the shortcut. I think that's hilarious. It's supposed to be a faster thing. It's supposed to be a shortcut. But because it takes so long to donate the humanity, it actually turns out to be slower for people who can truly beat the bosses as quickly as possible. That's just amusing. So, yeah, this is actually the faster path if you can kill the bosses sufficiently quickly. Now, for this run, that's probably not true. I'm really not optimizing for speed to the extent possible. So, not really true in my case. But in theirs, yes. Okay, so Centipede Demon. There's lava. Try not to stand in it. I don't understand why I took 2 hits there. The jumping, running and jumping really sucks. There's no way around it. It just sucks. And that was a mistake, because I got punched by the Centipede Demon into the lava, and now I'm dead. If I had fast roll, I probably could have survived that, but I didn't, so I died. And the only reason I stopped the heal is because of that stupid jump attack, letting me take hits while I'm in midair, not touching the ground whatsoever. So that's something to keep in mind. Do not try to jump over hazardous floors. The jump works in terms of covering distance. In other words, if you want to jump over a gap, the jump is effective. But it looks like it does not do a very good job of preventing you from taking damage from things that are underneath you, even though it makes more sense. So on this go-around, you're going to see me roll through the lava and take less damage, because it makes a lot more sense to dive headfirst into the lava in a somersault to avoid damage than it does to jump over it. Granted, in real life, you'd be burnt to a crisp anyway, because, you know, being this close to lava would be way too high of a temperature for a person to tolerate. But we are basically undead superhumans anyway, so I guess, whatever. I mean, we can also survive hits from the Asylum Demon's giant club thing and not die, so whatever. Suspension of disbelief is a valid thing to do here. And I whiff. And get punched in the face because I whiff. But you can chop the arm that way. And you can get the orange Tord ring, which lets you walk over lava for minimal damage. And by killing either his tail or his arm or something like that. And there I messed up. I mentioned in an earlier video you always want to roll into swings. I rolled away from a swing and got away from it a moment ago. But I would still recommend rolling into swings. Like I said, you can get away from it with it, but you need to be more precise, and it really doesn't offer a lot of benefits for the most part, unless you're being like double teamed or something. But Centipede's not hard. Try to stay off to a side of him, but not too close to his legs, because he'll stomp you. But as long as you stay off to a side of him, his really slow, yeah, that attack can one-shot you if you're at base vitality, and it hurts. But as long as you're not too close to his leg, he won't hit you with that. And he also has somewhat of a tell before he does it, so you have a split second to get out of its way as well. But that's really his only attack that can hit you when you're off to his side. Everything else is a very frontal attack. He's like a grabbing attack, like a spinning twirly whirl attack that he did, and his jumping and his punching attack. But those are all very frontal attacks, and if you get behind him, he'll sweep you with his tail. But if you're off to a side like that, he really only has the attempting to turn towards you approach or that stomp. Nothing else really works all that well unless you get underneath him and he does his ground pound attack on you. The Centipede Demon just isn't that hard as long as you stay off to a side and avoid getting stomped. My first playthrough, I beat him on my first try with a light crossbow upgraded. I think it was upgraded to like plus 10 or something at this point. And I just stayed away from him and shot him. Not one of the harder bosses. In fact, in terms of strict difficulty, nothing about the Demon Ruins to Lost Izalith's path is particularly challenging in terms of boss fights. I would maybe argue that the Demon Firesage is actually the hardest fight, which is kind of sad. So here we go, through the lava. I don't know how this is going to ultimately look on YouTube. This lava does a lot of funny stuff with Xbox rendering. It certainly causes frame rate issues for people, I think, on any system, just because it's so unusual relative to the rest of the game, excepting maybe the water with the Anor Londo ruins. If you're doing something that shows a lot of the water at once, it might have a similar result. But it still beats what I heard about Skyrim's water on some systems. Good times. I actually have not played Skyrim. I've only played one of the Elder Scrolls series, and that was Oblivion. I feel like I've done myself a disservice, is I played unmodded Oblivion on the Xbox, of all things. So, we're talking awful leveling system that's excessively tedious, to the point where it incentivized me to just stay at level 1 in Oblivion. And I never played Skyrim, although I heard you can do kinds of cheesy things in Skyrim. But we're well past the point where most people will be interested in a Skyrim Let's Play, and I don't know, I'll probably get to it eventually. I just haven't got around to it. I tend to stick with a couple games and perfect my craft at them rather than branching out. and I'm pretty close to being done with my prep work on with my pre-recordings of this. So next is Heroes of Might and Magic 5, and I will probably start pre-recording that before the conclusion of this series. So yes, those of you asking when I'm doing Heroes of Might and Magic 5, get ready, because after over a year of promising it, I'm going to finally be doing it. One thing though, I have not trained up at Heroes of Might and Magic 5, so remember how much of a newbie I was at HOM 3? Well, expect something similar, but possibly worse initially. I'll be leaning on the community for quite a bit of input and trying to improve my play as I go, much as I did in Heroes of Might and Magic 3. At the start of my HOM 3 run, I was pretty awful. No way around it. I was not playing that well. And towards the end of it, very experienced multiplayer guys with great optimization would still scoff at my play. But it is undeniable that I was decidedly more solid at the game at the end of that than I was at the start. Much better as a player. Anyway, that aside, I am now in Lost Izalith proper. If you rest at that hidden bonfire, you have a pretty easy run into Lost Izalith as long as you're wearing the orange charred ring, which you have to get anyway. So it's not that big of a deal to take this path instead of the shortcut. In fact, I prefer this path. At least for a first run. So while we're here, I know I want to make a chaos weapon, so I'm going to have to actually get the Red Titanite slab down from below. Even though I don't like going down there, it's just par for the course. If you're in human form here, Night Kirk will invade you, but I'm not, so no need to worry about that. And then this is one of the daughters of Chaos, I guess. And she can cast Fire Tempest and throw great Chaos Fireballs at you and use Chaos Fire Whips and stuff like that. But she's really not that impressive, as you saw. They have no poise. A lot of the NPC invaders, in fact only a few are exceptions, a lot of the NPC invaders either have no poise or very weak poise, such that you can instantly stagger them with any hammer that's two-hand R2, any great hammer, any ultra great sword, any axe, any ultra great axe or great axe or whatever. All these things will be able to instantly stagger just about every NPC invader you see. In fact, I think most of them will get staggered by any two-handed weapon attack, with the exception of, say, Paladin Leroy or guys like that. Or maybe Knight Kirk can take one too. I think he has enough poise. But all of them are sub 50 poise. And yeah, I got stuck on that route there. Somehow these things just don't have the aim needed. Yay, falling out floors. So much fun to have falling out floors. Yay. Alright, so here I'm evaluating paths I can take, but I somehow interrupted the Siegmeyer quest earlier, so he's not going to be here, and I knew he wasn't going to be here, although I did take a brief glance to see if he was anyway. And now I'm just looking around here. I don't come down here that much. I've only done it on a few runs. So I don't have the same level of knowledge of the area as I do in other areas of the game. But it's not that challenging of an area, really. It's just more of an annoying area. The ground below there will poison you. And yeah, there's a ton of Chaos Eaters here. If you want a fun experience, drop down into those open teeth mouth things and watch what happens. That's a fun experience. I tried to talk my brother-in-law into doing that once, but he didn't do it. I wonder why. I couldn't convince him. Anyway, this is where the not the Chaos Ember, the Titanite slab is, the Red Titanite slab. So that's where you grab that. Notice you're running through here slowly unless you have the Rusted Iron Ring on. So that ring is pretty useful to have. I would recommend getting it as early as you can tolerate fighting the Stray Demon in a playthrough. Of course, once you have one, you really don't need any more of them, so then you can go there just whenever you feel like getting the Titanite slab. Anyway, here's a trick you can use to deal with these guys if you don't care about red chunks too much, and I don't want to farm from him here anyway. If you drop down in these pits, you're dead, and so are the Chaos Eaters, so bear that in mind. Do not fall down. And yes, this will aggro a ton of these guys. But they're guarding, I think, a red chunk, some humanity, and some other stuff. So I wanted to grab what I could while I was here. You have to be careful with these Chaos Eaters, though. If they hit you with that attack that you just saw, that white cloud spitting attack, it will probably break your weapon or at least vastly reduce its durability. And it's a ways back to a bonfire. So that's kind of annoying. Fortunately, with this way, along with many other times, you can stagger them with the two-handed R2, which makes this infinitely easier. It is not very hard to handle Chaos Eaters when you can stun lock them, which is essentially what you can do, because their attacks are so slow that even though it's not a true stun lock, you do freeze them before they can get another attack off. So nice and simple, going for red chunks. I don't get any red chunks. Farming for red chunks before the kiln of the first flame is a real pain in the butt. I would recommend not bothering. Just farm them in the kiln, it's easier. And on top of it, you can farm ordinary chunks there. I hate farming chunks anyway. But if you're going to do it, I think the kiln is probably the easiest way to get most of the chunks. The blue one is pretty far into the kiln, but you'll see. And now I just need to figure out the way out of here. Again, I don't know the area that well, so it's taking me a moment to remember the way. There are some stairs that get you out of the swampy muck mess, but you have to find them. And this is the correct direction now. So we're almost done with lower Lost Izalith, thankfully. And I've heard other people say that this is their least favorite area in the game. I think that's mostly due to the boss, but honestly the level design here is not the most entertaining either. That area I just ran isn't particularly fun. It really just requires you to have the right kind of gear, and then if you do, it's kind of trivial. Chaos Eaters aren't particularly challenging, they don't require any engaging skill or anything like that, so just run down there, get what you need, and get out of there. And after getting stuck on the floor there, I'm going to run by, and yes, I'm heading back towards the Chaos Servants shortcut. I think some people still don't know that you can actually open this shortcut from the backside, from the Lost Izalith side, regardless of your Covenant or what your level in any of the Covenants are. You need to be Chaos Servants +2, and i.e. to have donated 30 humanity to the spider person there, the Firekeeper, in order to open it from the other side. But to open it from this side, you just need to walk up to it and hit a button. So that's what I'm going to do. The other I'm also coming over here for another very specific reason, and that's to grab a sunlight maggot. This is also the path you need to open to save Solaire if you advanced his quest at all. I didn't. He's still standing there in the Berg, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm also going, I put on the gold ring just then, the gold serpent ring. These chaos bugs actually can drop red titanite chunks. It's a rare drop for them, but they can. And so I figured, you know what, I am going to make a chaos weapon, so I might as well take some shots at getting a slab, or a chunk, I mean. And yes, Sunlight Maggot, that is very useful for the Tomb of Giants if you don't know the way and can just run through in the dark. It's probably the most convenient light source, even though it's the weakest. So that's what I'll be wearing. And there you go. Shortcut opened. My brother-in-law had the guide, or the magazine, that shows you pretty much the whole game. And I don't think it mentioned that you could do that. So I've also heard that you cannot open up the forest shortcut that way, that you would otherwise need the Crest of Artorias to open. So it's somewhat dependent on circumstance, I guess. I don't know why you can open this one and not that one, but it is convenient, as this does allow you to run back to Lost Izalith much more easily should you want to come back here later. Obviously, warping to the Beta Chaos Bonfire is not really a practical thing to do, as we'll be demonstrating soon enough. But okay, no luck on the chunks, sadly, so we'll have to farm for those later. I think I will actually show... I did record the farming video that I did at the end of this playthrough. I think I'll actually show it, but I'll just speed it up and not comment over it, or maybe I'll talk about something there. We'll see. But I don't intend to make you guys watch that at full speed. It's going to be a sped up video other than the very beginning of it regardless. Because there really isn't a lot to it. Okay, if you're fast rolling here, just hold block and run past him along the left-hand side, and as soon as you hear him going for a swing, roll, and he'll miss you. I got stuck there, and that's going to cause me to take a hit that I wouldn't have taken otherwise. Even though I'm mid-rolling, I'm certain I could have dodged that if I didn't get stuck on that route. So try to hug a little bit more closely to him, but not get stuck on him or the route, and you're good. Otherwise, since this isn't New Game Plus, you can just tank a hit and keep going anyway. If you hear him throwing an electric attack, those things, unlike a lot of other attacks, do not cheat and homing attack you. They go in a straight line. So you can just go by sound to dodge that and just run to the side to get out of the way. Alright, here comes everyone's favorite boss, Herp, the Bed of Chaos. The only really egregious example of fake difficulty in the entire game. Off we go. So, why do people hate this boss fight? Well, it's not challenging, but it's trial and error gameplay. That's why people hate this boss fight. And unless you know how to run back to it, it's also tedious to run back to it. How does it work? Well, in the first stage, it doesn't do a whole lot, other than that if you get kind of close to that center circle ring, it'll do a swinging attack at you with one of its arm branches, like so. But that won't one-shot you, and it's not particularly threatening yet. So just bait it out and run in. Easy as pie for the first part of this boss. The problem is after you destroy this pillar, the floors start to fall out under you. And that's when this goes from, Dark Souls to Kaizo Mario invisible coin blocks. Anyway, bait out that swinging attack and start running. And yes, I almost ran to my death. You have to memorize where the floors fall out if you want to sprint, because otherwise you're going to die by running off. Anyway, bait that attack after standing behind that root there and get back to the middle. Alternatively, press start, quit the game, and restart, and you will be back out at the top so you can avoid running past all these floors altogether. Second part of this can be very hard. If you're taking the path inside there, you'll probably get swatted into the pit unless you time it perfectly and bait attacks. Also, if you try to jump over the pit here, and you can jump over it, but that fire spike there will knock you into the pit unless you bait it out first. So you need to bait that out and then make the jump, which is a pain. Alternatively, you can just cheese it with a bow like I did. And that will work with a crossbow and binoculars as well, or even throwing knives if you can aim them. And you don't even need the stat requirements for the bow. Just touching that thing will activate it, so you're good. You're good. And so that's the easiest way to deal with this boss. And quote-unquote in one go without quitting out, as long as you know to run to that route over there. Now here comes the hard part, I guess. And this is the hard part because, again, the area immediately in front of me is going to have the floor fall out on you, but you don't know where you can go yet. Yeah, there we go. So you have to drop down on that route, but you can't see where that route is. So you can bait attacks, but unless you've played this fight before, you die. You either get extremely lucky or you die. I don't care what anyone says, that is actually fake difficulty, and that is bad design. Objectively. There's no way around it. The fact that you can't see where you're supposed to go until you commit to it, and you die if you guess wrongly, is fake difficulty. It's just as simple as that. Fortunately, this is really the only bad example, so I'm going to show the Daughters of Chaos shortcut since I died. And like I said, the very simplest way to make that boss fight go from complete BS to fair, just start with the floors out. That's all they needed to do. If there were no floors on that boss fight, like where there aren't now, if all the floors had already gone and you just had pitfalls, you could figure out where you need to go, bait boss attacks, and work your way around, successfully beating the boss like a puzzle. It would not be too much unlike the Dragon God boss fight in Demon Souls, which was also a similar fight in that you needed to destroy a couple things before attacking him directly, and it was largely a matter of reaching areas rather than a proper, drain hit points type of fight. This is the exact same kind of scenario. The only difference here is that you can't see things that will kill you instantly ahead of time. There's no way to know, short of playing the game or watching a guide, where you can go that won't get you killed. And that's why it's a bad fight. It's a crummy boss fight. But anyway, we're going to get it sooner or later. So I'll just run through the shortcut here. No big deal. It's not uncommon for me to actually win that on my first attempt. If I were fast rolling, I would have probably made it. I just didn't remember exactly how to go to drop on the route. The one good thing about this boss fight is that once you have knocked out the floors by getting near them, and once you have hit the pillars on either side, those things stay down. So you don't have to replay the whole boss fight. This is the only example in the game that's like that. Perhaps they felt sorry for us after making such a BS fight. Roll! Nope, too late. Again, I'm used to coming through here fast rolling. Mid rolling is a little bit more questionable. But I wanted to do a mid-roll playthrough. It's been so long since I've done one. And in my opinion, it is a little easier to play with poise than without it overall. And certainly, I haven't died to that yet. I've kind of just tanked the hit and gone through. And that's a valid option if you have the poise for it, I guess. At least until New Game Plus, or multiple New Game Pluses. Why am I coming over here? I guess I want to take a chance at getting another red chunk. They are a pain to farm for later, so since this is mostly on the way, I decided to take a look for it, but no luck. So, okay, round 2 against Beta Chaos. Can I do it this time? Let's hope so, because this isn't that fun of a run. But again, none of the bosses take that long to reach in this game, if you just run past all the noise. Here we go. Yep, stumble down. That's kind of fun to do. Makes your character look stupid. Alright. So, there's my bloodstain, and as you can see, you can actually see the floors. You can see where you can go and can't go now. If the boss were designed fairly, this is how it would look right from the start. So how do you do this? You bait a swiping attack, get a little bit closer, bait another swiping attack. Try and stay towards the middle so that these slamming spike things don't get you. And then you just run down here. You don't even have to jump. You can just run down. And yep, now you're good. If the Beta Chaos is doing the arm branch sweeping attack, you might want to wait just a moment so you don't get knocked off as you're running up towards this entrance. But aside from that, this isn't that hard of a fight. It's just annoying. So roll through all this nonsense, avoid firestorms if they cast one, and slice the bug. If you do 4 damage or more, I think you're good, even on New Game Plus 7. Get some Beta Chaos. So not a perfect Lost Izalith run, but darn close. And I feel pretty good about the path I showed, or the method I showed for taking out Beta Chaos. Alright viewers, I'll see you in the next part. The main team, signing off.